saying that this is the one time, typically, we do products minus reactants. Anytime that you need to net something, you always take what you have in the end and you subtract it from what you had before. And that's how you get your net. This is going to be the one time where you're actually going to do reactants minus products. It is the only time that you're going to do reactants minus products. Okay? So, the strength of a covalent bond between two atoms can be used to determine the stability, how stable a molecule is. And what it's called is the bond energy or bond association energy. It's the amount of energy needed to do what to 1 mole of gas substance? What do you think you're trying to do to it? Separate it. Break it apart, pull it apart, okay? To separate 1 mole of gaseous substance, okay? So if you see on here, we've got H2, and H2 is breaking apart into 2H. Remember, the difference between saying H2 and 2H is H2 means that they are actually bonded. To say 2H means that you have two of them separated from one another, okay? So they give us a delta H value, and it's positive, meaning that it's endothermic and bonds are breaking. Really easy. Think of Legos, having Lego pieces, and you're trying to pull the Lego pieces apart. I'll tell you that my son will come up to me and go, Mom, I can't separate these. And so I'm like, oh, I can't get them apart. Or sometimes I need to like wedge something in to get them to separate from each other. Has this ever happened? If you played with Legos, yes, okay? So, to break them, it takes energy, but what about putting them together? They snap together real easy, right? Really easily, just come right together and snap together. So, if you're forming the bonds, it's actually going to be negative. If you're breaking the bonds, it's actually going to be positive, okay? So, the idea is separating them and pulling them apart always requires energy. So, you may have a problem right now with what I'm saying. I'm going to repeat this. Breaking bonds and separating molecules always requires energy. Everybody repeat that, okay? Breaking bonds and separating molecules always requires energy. What's wrong? Well, those of you that are taking bio or AP bio, you've probably seen something like this before with respiration. And what people will say is, what's being released when you break sugar molecules? ATP. So what are you getting when you break sugar molecules? Energy. So that means that you're releasing, very nice, very nice. That means that you're releasing energy when you break sugar molecules. But it's not true. It's not true. Breaking of the sugar molecules always requires energy. What's different about this? You're not just breaking sugar molecules. What are you doing to the sugar? You're actually reacting them with oxygen, which we call what?
Combustion.
Combustion. You are burning the sugar molecules. You are not just breaking the molecules apart. And so I wanted to make sure, because there is this huge misconception that people have that breaking sugar molecules means you have more energy. That's not true. It's burning sugar molecules that releases energy, because what do you know about combustion and the process of burning? It always releases energy. We know that it's always exothermic and it's negative. Remember when we did thermochem and we talked about the bomb calorimeter and combustion and things like that. So it always releases energy. So I want to make sure that you understand that, and I'll show you this on the next page, that what's happening here is a chemical reaction. Because you're not just breaking the bonds, but you're actually going to reform them. And what you need to do is you need to get your net. And you need to figure out how much did it cost to break the bonds, and how much did it cost to reform the bonds? Because when they come back together, the sign is going to be what? When they come back together, the sign is going to be negative, but when you're pulling apart, it always requires energy, which means your sign is going to be positive. Okay? So we need to calculate it. We need to figure out, and where does bond breaking happen? Well, remember that in a chemical reaction, this is something that is so basic to chemistry, but so many even AP students and even people don't realize it until they become grad students, where they have this aha moment. Remember that all a chemical reaction is you take a substance that you have, you do what to the bonds, break them, you separate them from one another, and then what happens on the other side? You put them back together again. Okay, you rearrange them and you put them back together. You take whatever was here as your reactants. Now you could have a couple of different things. Maybe you have one thing and it's just decomposing. But all you're going to do is you're going to separate them from each other. Just like Legos, you built a house, but now you want a plane. What are you going to do? Take your house apart. It takes energy to do that. Then what are you going to do? Put your pieces back together and create your plane. Okay? So that's basically what's going to happen is you're going to break it apart and then put it back together again. And so the question is, did it require more energy to break it apart, or was that more energy released when you put it back together again? So if you're putting it back together again and what you put back together again was just some cube, well, maybe it took more energy to build a house than it did a cube. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm trying to use this analogy to try to relate this to the entire equation. So some things to keep in mind. The stronger the bonds, what do you think about their bond energy?
Higher.
The higher, the greater the bond energy, the higher it is, the larger the bond energy. Bond energy of multiple bonds is greater than bond energy of single bonds. In other words, a single bond versus a double bond versus a triple bond. Okay? These actually have the smallest bond energy. These have the biggest bond energy. The triple bonds, remember that the mouth of the alligator opens up to the bigger one. These have the greatest or the highest. So the triple bond actually has the greatest bond energy out of these three. So what would you expect of the difference, the distance between a single bond, a double bond, and a triple bond? A single bond will actually be the longest, whereas a triple bond would be the shortest. This is going to be the shortest type of bond that we'll have. Okay, so energy is always required to break bonds, and energy is given off when the bonds form. The greater the electronegativity difference between your atoms, the greater the extra bond energy is going to be. And so this is going to give us different values, and we're going to talk about these in just 1 second here. Okay, so there is a chart, and I'm going to just refer you to this chart real quick. So right here, this chart has different bond energies on it. And what you're going to do is, you're going to find the type of bond. Now it is split so that it's got single bonds, double bonds, and triple bonds are down here. Oxygen, O2, is a double bond, and that's right there on there. So these are all the single bonds, and then the doubles, the multiple bonds are down in this box. So what you're going to do is first you need to create your Lewis structure. Once you have your Lewis structure, your Lewis dot diagram, then you're going to add up how many bonds need to be broken, which means you need to find out that you need to take accounting for every single one of those bonds. You're going to multiply and you're going to add those all up to get your total on your reactant side. You're going to get your total on your product side, and then you're going to subtract reactants minus products once you figure this out, okay? So let's come back here real quick. So on here, it says using the table of bond energies, you're going to calculate your delta H for this methanol right here, okay? Let's first draw the methanol. So I've got CH3OH, so I'm going to have a C and then 3 H's coming around it, and then we're going to have an OH. Now if I work out the Lewis structure for this, carbon has 4 valence electrons, and each hydrogen has how many? 1. So I've got a 4, because there's 3 plus the other 1. And oxygen has how many valence electrons? 6. So I have a total of 14 valence electrons on this. So here, I've just done my single bonds. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Remember, hydrogen's the duet rule. My carbon's already obeying the octet rule, so where do the other dots go?
Oxygen.
On the oxygen. 2 up and 2 down right there. Okay? But don't forget, you have 2 of these. Okay? Then I'm going to have 3 O2s. Now, the oxygen is O double bond O, drawn that way. Okay? But O2 is on the chart. We saw that it was on the chart. Arrow, CO2. Do you remember what CO2 looks like? C, do you remember? The Lewis, that's not the most stable type though. C, double bond on both sides. Double bond O with your dots going around it. And here I also have 2 of them. And then I have 4 waters. H2O, do you remember what H2O looks like? Well, we know it's HOH. We know it's bent actually. But we're going to have 2 dots up, 2 dots down, and it ends up being a bent molecule. And there are 4 of these. So let's add these up. This is what takes the longest. It's the accounting part. Okay. Once we do one of these, we should be good to go on this. So how many CH bonds do you see in here? 3. But there are 2 of them, so we actually have 6. So I'm just going to write, actually I'm going to switch my color here so that you can see the difference. So I've got 6 CH bonds. CO bond. How many CO bonds? 1, but times 2. So there are 2 CO bonds. Then I have an OH. How many of them? 1, but times 2, so I've got 2 OH bonds. Let's come over here. I just have 3 O2s. Let's come over here. I've got how many C double bond O's? 2, but times 2 is 4. Awesome. So now I've got 4 of those. And now HOH. How many OH bonds do I have in here? Well, 2 right there, but times 4 gives you 8. So I've got 8 OH bonds. Some people like canceling out before they do this. It doesn't really matter. I know that my arrow's right here. So you could cancel these 2 out with 2 of these, okay? And instead make that 6. That works. So you can cross that one off and just make this one 6 instead, okay? Since one's on my product and one's on my reactant side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the chart. We're going to find the CH and we're going to find the CO, and let's see what our values are for CH and CO. So CH is right here at the top of the chart, and what's the value? 413. And what's CO? 358. Okay. I also know that we're going to need the OH, which is 463. O2 is right here, 495. It's right down there. Okay. So let's come back to this, and then I'm going to have you help me because I don't remember the numbers. So CH was what? 413. CO was 358. O2 was 495. Okay, and then we also need C double bond O. Take a look at your chart and what's C double bond O? 799. And the OH is 463. Here's what I want you to do in your calculator. You're going to add your reactants and what? Subtract your products. Go ahead and add your reactants and subtract your products, and then tell me what you get. So you're going to add 6 times 413 plus 2 times 358, 3 times 495 minus 4 times 799 minus 6 times 463, and let's see what you get. All right, what did you get for this?
Negative 1295.
Yay! Equals negative 1295. So again, what you're doing, and this is going to be in kilojoules, so what you're going to do for this reaction, you're going to do, make sure you put them in parentheses, otherwise you might get the wrong answer on this. So you're going to do like 6 times 413 plus this, minus, and minus again. So some people like to sum it and then subtract it. That's totally fine. That's the way that they typically would have it. Okay, and then we would do the same thing for any of the other